Hi everyone again, thanks for joining today. Today we have ipyvizzu, and then some magics of visualization. Without further ado, the stage is yours, Peter.
Thank you very much. Hello everyone, I'm Peter from Vizzu, an early stage startup, and I'm calling from Budapest, Hungary. Yeah, actually, just to let you know a little bit, I thought I would ask you a couple of questions. You can absolutely edit it out later on. You know, there's the reaction button, I guess, in the bottom of your screen, so you can just click on it and you know, use the thumbs up button if you agree with what I'm just telling you. So let's make a short poll at least. Can you use the thumbs up button? That's the first question. Okay, one, two,
Seems
three.
like people can.
3 people. Okay, 4. No, there's more. Great, great. So, first question. How many of you use notebooks, computational notebooks like Jupyter and the likes every day or very regularly? Okay, looks like everyone who found the thumbs up button do that. And less guessing too. Great. How many of you have to present, when you do an ad hoc like analysis in a notebook and then you have to present it to business stakeholders? How many of you have that rather regularly? Push the thumbs up if you do that. Okay, it seems to affect about half of the people here. Okay, it's don't be shy about this one. How many of you actually screenshot a plot from a Jupyter Notebook and then paste it in a PowerPoint, like to add it there? Oh, there are crying emojis coming up. Okay, there's just one person. Oh, great. So it's not very common. There's usually it's around 30 people, 30% of the people. And the last question: how many of you use Streamlit, or like, you know, semi-regularly at least? 1, 2, 3 people. Great. No, actually, the last question is: how many of you have heard about Vizzu before all this meetup thing at all? Oh, great, great.
It was on my bookmarks, to be honest, but I haven't tried it out yet.
Oh,
so
really?
it's
Really?
your It's
Perfect.
now the stage is yours to perfectly
it's
introduce.
great to hear. Great to hear. And yeah, thanks for all the answers. Okay, I'll start with a short PowerPoint, and then we'll get down to coding and notebooks. So yeah, the startup, as I said, is called Vizzu. That we're doing, and we basically created a generic chart morphing engine, meaning that it can, so you can express a lot of different charts on its interface, and it can interpolate between these charts. The reason for that is because it uses a single logic to describe all different types of charts. It's basically the logic it employs, it's the other way around that other charting libraries or charting solutions use, and it comes with some specific capabilities that we, you know, hope to find good use cases for. But I think that the right question at this point is like, why would you do such a thing? Why do you spend time with doing the generic chart morpher? And the reason for that is our vision, which is to build a graphical user interface for data. So we think that not necessarily data scientists, but rather Excel users and you know, basic business people would be able to interact with data, to explore it, to create animated stories, interactive animated dashboards, and use it even for forecasting and planning. And actually, we think that the current ways of fiddling with spreadsheets, with pivot tables, with Python, if you like, from the average business user's perspective, is really abstract and it's hard to grasp. Whether we are so much better in processing information visually and understanding what's going on if we can read charts, which is not for everyone, but I guess much more people can do that than actually manipulating pivot tables, for example. So a couple of things why we think this works, and actually we are focusing on storytelling first because obviously we had to narrow down the use case as an early stage startup with our rather small team. little bit of a history. So we started this in 2021, where we built the core engine, which is in C++. We used it in-house to build stories and interactives. And then we released our first open source tool, which is a JavaScript charting library. We basically created the JavaScript API around the C++ engine. We use WebAssembly to compile the C++ engine in the browser. And then around a year ago, we released our first tool for data scientists when we realized that we have a good chance of building something with this very small team that we have here in Hungary as an early stage startup that people like you can use to build animated data stories and the likes. And soon enough, we realized that we need to also just extend the capabilities of this, and we built a small extension called ipyvizzu-story that enables you to build, present, and share animated data stories right within these computational notebooks, without any extra hustle. Yeah, so that's about it. Why do you think animation is a good thing? So static charts are pretty abstract. So when you're showing different views of the same data set, it might not be obvious for everyone what they're looking at and what's the connection. You have to also always reinterpret the charts when you show these to people one by one. Whereas if I connect the same views with animation, then no further explanation is necessary. Basically, everybody can intuitively understand what's going on and how these charts are connected. It's basically because we use different parts of our brain to interpret moving parts on the screen than to interpret abstract concepts like axes and channels and charts and the connection between them especially. A couple of examples for the use of animation. You can drill down and show the components of a composite index like this, for example. You notice that zooming, hiding elements, can also be very easy to follow. You can also zoom from part to whole and show components, show if there's a stack chart, if something goes with the trend or against the trend, as in this case. You can switch from an aggregate view to a distribution view without, again, any further explanation necessary. Or you can obviously show change over time. Actually, animation is great for using time as an additional dimension and add it to the animation layer, so to say. So obviously, racing bar charts are a great example of that. And yeah, you can actually build a narrative from one chart if you just again zoom in on different parts. For example, this is about the market shares, the number of units sold, and the profit of mobile phone companies. And now we have a sense of magnitude because of the animation as well. We have a ton of integrations. This is just a couple of those. If you go on ipyvizzu.com, you can get to a full list of those. So we cover a lot of notebooks. We are also sort of available in Panel and in PyScript. We are actually collaborating with the PyScript team to release our among the first plugins, the one that would be able to enable people to use Vizzu. And more interestingly, we also have Streamlit. I'm going to show you some examples of how it can be used within that platform. And Mode, which is a BI tool. You can also use our animated charts and stories on Mode dashboards, which we think is also an interesting use case. So without further ado, let's get down to coding. I will just share a different screen of mine. Let me check if it's the right setting. Yep. And let's switch to that. So you should be seeing a Jupyter Notebook right now. I will actually create, so I'm sorry, yeah, there was a messing with the calendar invite. So I haven't had the time to create a separate folder for you, but you will basically have a similar folder in the repo. This is for a meetup that I presented at last week in London. It's going to have, I think, exactly the same content, so maybe you can even still use this one, where you would find all the all the links and all the notebooks that I'm showing throughout my presentation. So actually, if you go to ipyvizzu-pydata-london, so bit.ly, so this link that you can see on the screen, you will end up in this repo. And yeah, so I would in the repo folder, there's the notebooks. These are the notebooks that I'm just going to show you, and in the README, there are a couple of useful links to slides of my presentation, to a lot of other useful stuff. So feel free to go there right now. Again, this is the link, so bit.ly ipyvizzu-pydata-london. Basic logic of ipyvizzu, which is, as you know, the Python interface of our generic chart morpher. We have a single method, the animate method, and you have to call that over and over again. And when you call it once, you get to a static chart, and when you call it again, ipyvizzu will automatically morph to the chart that you configure in the second call of the animate method, basically. The animate method has 3 arguments. You have to add the data to the chart. You have the chance to add new series between animations, and also you have the opportunity to filter the data that you already added. ipyvizzu automatically aggregates values, and we only separate values and dimensions, as you will see. To keep things simple for now, you have to add the chart configuration. We'll see an example for that, and then you have to add styling. You also have the opportunity to fiddle with the animation options. We are very keen on making them great out of box, but there can be specific use cases, and then there can be like occasions when we're just plain wrong. So as you can imagine, this thing has a huge parameter space. And there can be, like, please, if you think you have a better idea for the default animation options in certain setups, please let us know. We are very keen to get your feedback and understand what you're meaning by that. And let's see a simple example. As you can see now, the output appears on the right side of the cell. It's just I fiddled a little bit with the CSS to have that. It's easier for presentational purposes. You can use pip to install ipyvizzu. You can also use conda. You can also install it locally. But I mean, I think almost everybody uses pip. And then you can just import the chart, which is the object that that has all these arguments, data, config, and style, as you know. So ipyvizzu works together with pandas. You can add a data frame to it. So we basically just read a CSV file. We tell it that the PC class, or the P class, is a string, so it's a category and not a value. And then we basically just create the data object and call the add data frame method to add the data frame here. And so now we have in the data object, the data frame. We then create the chart. We tell it to have a specific width and height, and then we call the animate method. So we add the data to it, and then we add the count, which is like, every passenger has the value of 1 here, to the x-axis, and then the sex to the y-axis, and then the same number that's on the x-axis to the label. For the first, okay, Ron, I'm just going to comment this out and run it like this, and usually it looks like I first have to this cell, so that, and I have the time to rerun everything. Yep, so here we go. And now we're going to see just a single bar chart with the number of passengers, and then if I add the sex on the y-axis, then it will appear on the y-axis. You could ask why it wasn't animated. It's because creating the object is in the same cell. So actually, just to show you how it works, so if I rerun this and then I comment this thing so that I don't create the chart object once again and rerun it, then it will be so as you can see, the thing happens in an animated fashion. Next up, we will add survived, which is a category that shows whether the passenger survived or died, on the x-axis and also on the color, meaning that we are going to have a stacked bar chart where we show in color coded, because we added to the color as well, whether the passenger died or not. Yeah, in this last bit, let me just we comment these out. We are just going to remove the survive from the x-axis. So as you can see, only count remains there, and add it to the y-axis. It means that we will group the elements on the y-axis. It's that easy. So configuration is the key here. In this example, we have a lot of other options. We can fiddle with the coordinate system. Sorry, I always do that when I'm in the notebook. So we can fiddle with the coordinate system, the geometric elements used to represent data, the sorting, the alignment, add a title, or have a special feature called splitting that I'm going to show in the next example. So if I, for example, switch the geometric elements from the default rectangle to circle, then all these turn into a circle, and now adding a value to the size actually makes sense. So now the same number, the count, is also represented by the size of the markers, and I can also switch to polar coordinate system from Cartesian, which is a chart that doesn't make any sense. And it's important. So with these generic morpher, you can make charts that are actually correct mathematically and in terms of data visualization, but we don't use them, so people won't understand it. And that was one of the issues we heard when we first started showing this around last March. And the other issue was that this generic logic of just adding categories and values to axes and channels, such as the color and the label channel, or the size, is not that intuitive. Data scientists are much more used to actually having some presets and understanding what is the type of chart that they're building before they get down building it. So that's why we created presets, and this is going to be an example showcasing that. It looks like this notebook is not in a way that I want it to be. This is the CSS hacking thing that I'm using. So I'm just going to do this here, save it, and yep. So now we have the output on the right side of the cell. And let me show you how these presets work. We actually have created these a ton of presets. If you go on our site, ipyvizzu.com or ipyvizzu.vizzuhq.com, you will see them around here. And so if you go and check the code, you'll see that actually the configuration has changed. So you have now config.stackbar in this case, and you can add some value to the x-axis, something to the country, but it's, you can know what sort of parameters it expects after you selected that you want to build a stacked bar chart, and that it's stacked by another category, and you can also obviously add a title to it. So it's a little easier or more straightforward to use it. At least that was our intention, and we had good feedback on that. So we're going to use a different data set, again, added to a data frame. It shows how much revenue different music formats generated in the US between 1973 and 2020. It's important to note that you want your data set to be arranged if you have temporal data, such as years, from oldest to newest, because ipyvizzu don't know what a temporal data is. We only have categories and values. And because of, just to also understand what the order will be, for example, when we create a stacked area chart or a stream graph or something like that, you also would want to add all the categories with the 0 value, even in the first year, to make things easier. I will show you when it makes sense, or why it matters. So let me really quickly restart this kernel, because I honestly don't know when it was the last time when I ran it. I'm just going to do the same here, and I don't want to end up having the same issue that I had with the the previous notebook. It looks like it takes some time with the screen sharing on, but it should be coming up right away. Oh, we have some new messages in the chat until then. Let me really quickly chat. Oh yeah, thanks for yeah, thank you for adding the GitHub link in the chat.
No problem.
Thank you.
We'll keep you.
All right, so the data. Let's yeah. Yep, and now we're going to use the bar chart preset, which is config.bar, and we add the revenue. As you can see, if you add this a symbol in brackets, then it will be also added to the label when you're using it. So it's a bar chart. We automatically aggregated all the values that are in the data set. So it's a total revenue throughout the years that was generated. I honestly don't really like that every chart has the same color, so I'm going to just switch to a group bar chart where I tell that it's grouped by format, and it means that I'm going to have like a different color for every bar. And I also have a couple of stylistic issues here, so I don't like that we use these long numbers, and here it's actually SE. Like a short scale that we're using SE symbols, and I don't like the colors so much. So I'm just going to change a little bit, and the way I do it is I'm going to use the style object here, the style argument. So as you can see, it has a hierarchical structure, bit similar to CSS. There are plenty of things you can actually fine-tune. Here I'm just changing the title font size. I'm adding a different color palette where I add the colors to the bars one by one. I actually switch the number format to prefix, then I tell it to use the short scale from the US, and I also don't want it to use any just maximum one digit if it has some fractional numbers and things like that. So if I rerun it, then here we go. We have nice colors and we have short scale, and the whole chart looks a lot better. So
I have actually a question in the chat.
Yep.
Last question
Thank
asks,
you.
can I embed this into a web page? Like if I'm using it as part of data journalism story. So
Yes.
do you have embedding option?
Yes, you can. This is actually like we are drawing on a canvas. So basically, this is all done in JavaScript in the background, and what comes up here is HTML, and it's an HTML canvas that we draw on. When we go forward with the presentation, you will see the story part. I think that's actually better to embed, and it has built-in embedding options, better than just saving the code from here. But you also have the opportunity to export the HTML from this version. And thanks for letting me know that there's
No problem. Thanks.
Okay, so next up, let's create a bubble chart. Again, we use the bubble preset. We tell what's on the size and what's on color. And it happens very smoothly. Then we can create a stacked bubble and add the year, which is something we haven't had before. So, splitting up the big bubble to small bubbles, which I think looks quite nice. And then we can turn it to a splitted column chart. We fiddle again a little bit with the style. Let me quickly just turn this part and show you what happens if we don't use it. So yeah, it should be okay. So I'm just going to run this cell. No, it's like I'm doing something wrong. Anyhow, I don't know what I'm messing up, and I really don't want to take more time than it's required. So yeah, so now we created this splitted column chart. Yeah, I actually just made the labels invisible because they don't look good in this setting, and I also turned the labels here a little bit sideways with an angle, but still it's too dense, right? So there are too many labels towards the x-axis, and that's where you can use events. Even though they're still in JavaScript, they are pretty straightforward. We are actually preparing a ton of additional examples of using events for you. This one is basically, it's really like when it interferes when we draw the plot axis label, and it says that only when the year is divisible by 5, it should be written there. So if I run this cell, and if I go back to my chart, as you can see, almost all the labels are vanished, except for the ones that are divisible by 5, and it looks a lot nicer. So this kind of thing requires a bit more tinkering, but this way you can actually fine-tune the look and feel of your charts to some extreme extent. Some more examples. Turning this into a stream graph makes a lot of sense. Now you can see how, what were the different eras when how the different music formats changed and their popularity changed. And here comes the splitting feature that I mentioned you, which is just to show these components side by side. We saw something similar with the splitted bar chart, but I think with an area chart it's even more apparent. And here's another nifty feature, which is the filtering part in the data section. So again, you just need to add an expression, and when it's true, so we're going to filter down to all of the data where this is true. Again, the expression is still in JavaScript. I know you would understand. So this is just really easy to understand. And as I said, we are a small team, so we don't necessarily have. We are working on doing this in Python as well, but we thought it's good for initial use. And what we do here is we just zoom on where the format is vinyl or streaming. And I think this is a very important feature actually of ipyvizzu, this zooming thing, and via the filtering, because it's so easy to follow what's going on here, and it also enables you to just direct the audience's attention to specific like subgroups, or just add things one by one. I really like starting a story being zoomed in and then zooming out and creating context around things, and these all work very well with the animation that you have out of box with ipyvizzu. And yeah, so next up, I'm just going to switch off the filtering and split and the splitting. I would also switch that off. This is the phase that my wife calls when the elephants kiss. Now you know why. And so we're back at the stream graph. And lastly, let's turn this into a line chart. And so we can just compare the components again differently side by side, so we can see which component was on top at which part. As I mentioned, there are a couple of play notebooks here in the repository. So you, I just clicked on. Yeah, no, we're at the right folder. You have some playgrounds. So you have playground 1, 2, and 3. Now I just presented to you ipyvizzu presets, and there's actually a playground that belongs to it, which is yeah. Let me show you how it looks. I hope it's going to work. This is the first playground. That's why it's not the one that I want to show you right now. The way it works. Yeah, it looks like I don't have it here, or at least not under this name. Whatever, this is the playground that shows the initial syntax, so without the presets, but basically the same thing. It has a data set loaded in, and then it shows you some initial configurations, and also gives you some suggestions in the comments, so like how you can change the settings and play around to just have a feel of how ipyvizzu works. You have the same data set and some separate, so like different presets that with the presets, some additional cells that are prepared for you. It's all just, if you have 10-15 minutes to have a make of, sense of how ipyvizzu works, I think this might be the best place to start with. So, and third example is where I'm going to show you ipyvizzu-story, which is this extension of ipyvizzu that I mentioned at the beginning that we created because we heard that people like what we do, but this running cells and is not that convenient, and rerunning them, and also not very convenient for storytelling. So you can make business people run out of this world if you show them a notebook. This is something that most data scientists want to avoid, at least from what we heard so far. ipyvizzu-story's API is very similar to ipyvizzu's. It's just it has a story element. That's the whole story. It has some slides and it has some steps. And so slides are basically views of the data where we want the presentation to stop. And if a slide contains more than one step, it can contain only a single step, and then it's easy. If it contains more than one step, it means that when we're going from the second slide to the third one, we go for the first step, we don't stop, we go to the second step, we don't stop either, we go to the third step, and that's where the animation stops. This is basically if you have more complex animations that you just want to skip through, that makes understanding a little bit easier, but actually the real deal is the last view. And actually a step is basically the same thing as a chart was in ipyvizzu. So it's the same configuration, the same syntax, with some minor differences. Which is, one of them is that you have to add the data to the whole story at the very beginning. You cannot change the data being shown just like you had this option with ipyvizzu. So you can only use filter to show different parts of that data. And you also don't have the animation options for now. We will release those options for you, but that's not available right now. Okay, and so as you can see, we use again pip, so we install ipyvizzu-story, and then we have a story, slide, and step, as I just said, and we also use CSV that we read to a pandas data frame, and then we add the data frame to the data object. This is a data set that shows how much money the US federal government spent on different things, R&D, basically different R&D functions from 1955 to 2020. And so, yeah, I just created a style object that I run here, and I'm just going to add the style to the data, just like to the story, just like I do the data. I create the story object and I add the data and the style to it. That's about it. I also set the size similarly to what I did with the chart, and then I create my first slide. And as you can see, I have in the slide just a single step, and in the step I filter the data so that the function doesn't include, so not equal defense. Everything else is fine, but I don't want to show defense first. And then I have the presets, so I can use the presets here in the story as well. I'm building a stacked area chart with the year on the x-axis and the amount on the y-axis, and it's stacked by the function. It has a title. I add the freshly created slide to the story, and then I create an additional slide called slide 2. It also has a single step, and I just switch on the splitting feature, and I change the title to show components side by side. And again, I add the slide to the story. Now I also switch on a feature called the tooltip, and I play the story. And if I run this cell, as you can see, we end up with a presentation here. I can go full screen by clicking on this button, and I can move between the slides. Yeah, sorry, I started with just my arrow key and you haven't been able to see it. So I can either click on these buttons that appear beneath the chart, or I can use my arrow keys or page up, page down, which means that I can also use a clicker. So you can just go full screen and start your presentation and use a clicker to move from one slide to the other. And so, yeah, we have the stacked area chart, and then we split it up in the second slide. In the third slide, though, yeah, I again want to only have the those yearly values that are divisible by 5. I once again use the event to do that. These will disappear when I hit story play once again, and then I'm going to add slide number 3. So slide number 3 is going to have multiple steps. First, we create an empty slide object, and then we call the add step method to it, and within the add step method, we create the step, which is again just the same thing as the same syntax that we had with ipyvizzu. So in the first step, we switch the splitting feature off, and then in the second step, we switch the filtering off as well, meaning that we add the defense budget, because remember, we didn't have that specific category initially. We just add this slide to the story, and then we play the story once again. So as you can see, yeah, only every 50 year is written out there now, and we have one slide. It always starts with the initial slide, then we have the second slide, and in the third slide we first switch the splitting feature off, and then the defense appears. And actually, as you can see, yeah, the US spent quite a lot on defense, you know, all these years, during all these years. So I'm going to just run all the remaining slides and steps. Feel free to take a look at the code. There's nothing very new here, and it's, I think, more important to, you know, don't go over time too much. So yeah, you saw the initial slide. I'm going to just use my arrow keys to move back and forth. I split it up to show the trends. Yeah, for example, this is the Apollo time, and then yeah, we stack it, we check the defense budget. Here we have a nifty feature of showing components percentage-wise rather than the values. You just need to add align, stretch, and yeah, it's a lot of money that they spend on defense, right? And another feature, again, we use the zooming feature. We changed the geometry to rectangle. We zoomed in to include only the first and the last bit, and then we're going to group and rearrange the elements to show how each function, the money spent on each function, changed from the initial, so from 1955 to 2020. These are just simple examples of using the opportunities that the animated charts provide you. Okay, and I honestly, there's just yeah, there were two more things I wanted to show you how this thing works in Streamlit. Actually, one of my apps have an issue. This is where I actually embedded ipyvizzu-story, so I'm very sorry that I cannot show you. It was behaving strangely throughout the day. I have to double check, but it's only building the app that's never happening. Yeah, I was thinking if I have another version of it, but anyhow, when I have it, I'll just, you know, add it in the repo folder. Basically, what Streamlit allows you is to add interactive elements around the story. And for example, we have the world population there, that we take a look at from different views, like what the UN forecasts how the world population will change, and also we drill down to certain regions that are similar to continents but not equal to them, and you can just like select which continent you want to zoom into. You can also just throw out the initial slides if you change the continent, so that, you know, the intro slides won't be there, and you can also export it to HTML. And yes, this is the thing that's missing here. Let me show you how it works. So let me quickly go to this is going to work. Yeah, so this is the documentation site that we have, and I think you will find a couple of examples here. And yeah, this is the same story that we've just seen. Let me see if I had it here. No, I haven't. Oh yeah, here's it. So export to HTML. It's really just this one line of code that you have to add. So I'm just going to add it here. Honestly, I look at it. Okay, let me quickly go to the folder where this was generated and dig it for you. So just shouldn't take too long. Yep, I'm almost there. So hold on. Yeah, so this is the My Story HTML that I'm not sure if you. Oh no.
I think you're showing wrong screen.
So this is the My Story HTML.
No, yeah.
And yeah, as you can see, it has the story generated within with the buttons. Since we set it to have 400 pixel in height, it keeps it, but you can just edit either in the cell or within the HTML. It's very straightforward. This one element, so I just change it within the HTML to 100% and save it. And if I reload this file, then yeah, the story will just going to take up the whole screen. That's about it. And you can send it in a file. It also has the data. So if we took a look at the this is the source of the HTML file. It has the data embedded, so make sure that you don't send anything that's that you're not allowed to share publicly. But besides that, it's just really easy to send your stories like this, and it's not like this story is like 13 kilobytes, so it's really not huge at all. And yeah, then I only have the more advanced version that how Streamlit is working. You can find it at intro to Vizzu and streamlit.app. There are just very simple examples like this tutorial that shows a simple column chart, and then you can swap it to a bar chart. But you can actually build some simple things like, for example, this slider that shows the music data that we saw, and you can change between the years with just by either by with the slider, and this is the between 1990 and 1991 when cassette took over, like CD took over from the cassette as the most popular or the thing or the format that generates the more revenue. And we also have the same data set in this complex data explorer where the user can do plenty of different things, like instead of revenue, like it adjust it for inflation, select the yearly range that's being shown and add or remove different years, show the volume instead of the revenue being generated, even aggregate the data by format and filter different formats and things like that. So basically now you also have the opportunity to build interactive explorers using ipyvizzu and Streamlit. Is due to the fact that a guy called Zachary Blackwood, whom we are very grateful for, actually built this bidirectional component that enables the use of Vizzu within Streamlit in a way that the app doesn't get reloaded all the time. And it also has some nifty features, so you can basically create charts where you can just click on a column and it drills down and shows the details of that. Be sure to check that out. I think it works great. And
there's another question in the chat, by the way. Do you want me to?
Yeah, please. And I'm towards the end of my presentation, so feel free to
sure.
add any questions you have.
Yeah, it says, is there any support for exporting static charts to be embedded into LaTeX documents?
So without the story, you mean? Without the moving back and forth? Or?
I think, yeah, it's the static part. So yeah, probably I know, but not sure about what exactly.
Me neither. So if you can, yeah, maybe let me know the use case.
Without the story.
Why would you want static
if you
charts?
want, I can unmute you. One second.
That would be great. Thanks.
Yeah, let me ask to unmute and he can follow up with the question.
To be embedded in the LaTeX documents. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
hi,
thanks.
Nitra.
It was very nice presentations.
Thank you.
So yeah, this scenario appeared actually because in some cases I can go with Plotly and stuff, but I have given a presentation using ipyvizzu, but then I needed to document it for later for submission and stuff. So at that point I was thinking if I could literally reuse from the same, I embedded in a JS report, so in a web page, and then I have showed it, and then finally I needed to submit it. So in that cases, this weird scenario appeared, then that I was looking for it.
Mm-hmm. So, but you're telling me that you already used our thing.
Yes, I used ipyvizzu.
Oh, really?
Yes, for Yeah, I have already used it. But as you said, I was just embedding the HTML into my web page, which is easy. And then I have given the presentation, because usually you can, I mean, GitHub pages, you can show, etc. I mean, there are multiple ways you can show that. But then I had to finally submit after end of my semester, I had to submit it. And then that was the issue that I faced, because
Hmm.
everything is in LaTeX. So
I see. I
yeah, I
see.
had to go for the
The
uh,
screenshotting version. I guess.
yes, kind
Yeah.
of, which is
Yeah.
ugly, but yeah.
No, no, I understand. It's actually for us, to use our charts in a static setting, it's like,
Mhm.
okay, but that's not the real deal here. But I understand your pain. And Mainak, would you be okay of, getting in touch with me after the meetup and let me know what you used ipyvizzu for and how it went
Yeah,
and what
sure.
were your,
Mhm.
so please, can you just, I mean, this is my email address. I'm just typing it
Okay.
in the
Yeah,
chat.
okay.
And this is for all of you, actually. If you want to get in touch with me, feel free to drop me a line. I'm always very happy to just get people involved and understand how we could, make our tool even better. We think there's a lot to improve there. Also, if you just want to, take a look at what others do and just join the community, this is our Slack channel. And I also would very much appreciate if we can join there and
Also support with stars in GitHub if possible.
oh yeah, absolutely, some stars in GitHub, that's also very, very valuable.
Yeah.
And I have another thing to ask from you. So there's a survey here. I hope it's a link and not
Yeah,
just,
I
okay, good.
think
It looks very
also
strange.
you shared both the link and then the image.
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay.
Anyhow, this is a 2-3 minute survey that asks about your experience in, presenting data, about my presentation. It would be very, very valuable for us if you can just give us these 2-3 minutes of your time and fill it out. I would,
Sure.
if there's one thing I can ask from you today, that would be it. We are
Yeah.
so eager to learn more about um, this whole yeah, like basically how our thing is perceived, how can we make it better, and everybody who has used it for presenting like mine, please reach out to me and tell me what went well, what went wrong. I mean, honestly, just today I had a discussion with an individual working at a really big company in London who actually got a raise because he used ipyvizzu to present some findings to upper management, and now they are turning this into a project. And I mean, honestly, as you can imagine, I love that kind of stories, and I want to understand how our tool can be used to make people more successful, because yeah, this is what we're all up to. These are actually the links for the repos if you're kind enough to give us some stars, or if you want to know more about our tool. All
Yes.
right.
Also, I will announce the form in the Discord so more people can hopefully fill in the question you need. And I
Thanks.
think it's
Thanks.
time for questions. No,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
it.
Rahul will have a few questions, so
Yeah,
he would
sure.
like to be unmuted.
Yeah, sure. Let me unmute Rahul. So
Please.
actually, yeah, we usually don't like unmute people by default, but last week we had influx of trolls. So yeah, let me.
Hello,
Yeah,
Peter.
Rahul is on. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
he's.
Rahul, are you a troll?
no, no, I am not.
Ah, that's great. Great news.
First of all, thank you for the great presentation, actually. And this kind of new initiative in the visualization thing is like a good thing for us, for data scientists, and it helps a lot. So even I am using it for my master thesis, and I'm working on making my topic is only the storytelling with data for the economical data. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm using this for my dashboard, so it's a quite of good use. And my question, I have few questions, I can shoot one by one. So my first question will be like, okay, so as you showed in the code that we can only add the data frame in the data object, or is there any other data type we can use in the data object?
Yes, you can use JSON, and there's actually, you can add data manually as well.
Okay.
These are the types that are supported for now, but let me know if there's like something important missing there.
Okay, yeah. And okay, so the next question was, as you mentioned that in the ipyvizzu-story, we cannot change the data in between the slides.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is it like, can we expect in future if it's possible, so that so there sometimes the dimensions of the data are not same, which we want to explain it in the single story between slides. So if we want to change the data, it would be helpful.
Honestly, I haven't met with that use case before, because if you have the data at your disposal.
Yeah, so we have the data, but the dimensions are suppose not, so we cannot join. So I have two different, suppose for example, I have two different tables.
Oh yeah,
And
you
the
have to
dimensions
join
are
them.
different. I cannot join them to use it as a single data source. So for that, I need to use, but I want to use into my story both the tables. So how can I use that?
So we basically have two stories, two data sets, but
Yeah.
still you would want to play them one after the other without switching from one story to the other.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. So can you just add this as an issue at the ipyvizzu-story repo to let's add the capability of stitching stories together with separate data sets and play them as one? I think it makes sense, and honestly, I'm not even a tech guy in the company, so I don't know how hard it would be, but I don't think it should be too hard at least, and it's an interesting use case, and yeah, I would love to have it. If you would be so kind to open an issue, I would really appreciate that.
Definitely, I will do that.
Thank you.
But just to confirm, we can change the data for the presets like normal ipyvizzu, not the story. Between
Yeah,
the
yeah.
animations, we can do that.
Yes, you can absolutely do that, but if you know it's a completely different data set, then we won't be able to animate from one
Animate.
to the other,
Yeah.
because you know there's nothing to. So basically, the chart will fade through white, or fade through empty. There has to be some sort of connection between the two views of the data set in order to make the animation. If there are no categories and values that are the same, then there's nothing to connect via the animation.
Yes. So
But
in my
it
case,
depends. Mhm.
yeah, in my case, in my problem statement, the common value would be the just time, because as I said, so in my case, I'm analyzing the economical data, which obviously has a constant variable of time. So
Mhm.
the time is the common thing in all the data sets. So the time will be there, but as you see, like suppose there are a few different categories for GDP and also, so that changes,
Yeah,
but the time remains same.
so the time dimension is the same and with the same resolution.
Yes.
Then you can actually join the two tables, I think.
Yeah, I tried that, but for few cases it works, for few it doesn't.
Okay.
I
Let's
I will open the
please add
issue.
the issue, and also reach out to me either via email or in Slack, and we might have some ideas to help you out. But yeah,
Sure, sure.
and thanks for mentioning this use case. I like it. I mean,
Thank you.
I
Yeah.
like when you're challenged.
Yes. And then I have two questions which are like a bit small, also simple one. So first is like, can we change the background of the chart,
Yes,
customize it?
yes.
Okay.
You can make it transparent and then add anything behind, and there are a couple of ways you can fiddle with the background. You might have to use events. These are one of these examples that we are going to soon publish, where you just add an image to the background.
Yeah, because I didn't find any syntax for that in your website, so maybe I was not sure.
That might be the case. Honestly, we just redid our documentations and released the new versions last week and the week before. And so, because especially the Python part just grew organically and it wasn't very easy to use, we hope the new version is easier to use. And there's actually the search option on top. But there can be cases that are still not covered. In if you or anybody else find something like this, just drop us a line in Slack, ask for help. We'll be there, like maybe not when we are asleep, but apart from those very few hours, we will try to get back to you as soon as possible.
Definitely, the updated version of the website is quite helpful than the previous one. So I already used it, the search function and everything. So it's
Thanks.
a good.
I'll let the team know. They'll be very happy.
Yes, we have thumbs up for that.
Mhm.
And so last question was mine. Can we annotate the chart? Suppose if I want to annotate a part of chart, line chart or bar chart, then can we do that?
That's a great question. So annotation is an additional feature set that we need to think about. You will see from these examples that we are going to soon publish that you have some kind of opportunities, not nearly as smooth and well developed as, for example, in Matplotlib. And there's a big difference in the size of the community and also the age of these tools. So no wonder they are a bit ahead of us in that regard. We are trying to do what we can, and with the events, you have some sort of options to.
Okay.
Bye, Cindy. Thanks for the appreciation, and thank you for stopping by.
Yeah, definitely. This is the like a growing community, and I think it's doing well. Considering the time you introduced this ipyvizzu, from
Thank
then
you.
from 2021, I think it's a fast growing community than any other visualization. But yeah.
Thank you, Rahul. We are very much focused on that. We will soon have regular community calls where we really need people to showcase what they did with Vizzu, what they liked, what they didn't like, and what they think about the development. So if you join our Slack, you will definitely be aware of when we have such a community call, and we'd be happy to have you there.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that concludes my all questions. And thank you once again for the very informative presentation and
Great, and
clearing out the doubts.
thanks for all the questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to see fans of the repo asking detailed questions. It's always good.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, let's see if others don't have questions. In the meanwhile, I also have some technical questions like, does it support also pandas like data frame as input?
Yeah, we just use that in every example.
Okay, but so it means then the pandas 2.0 will hopefully make things faster also for ipyvizzu.
Faster in what sense?
Like I think they have now changed the backend to PyArrow.
Yeah, I heard, and we haven't had the chance to play with it. I'm sure it will have some effect, but once you actually load the data frame to Vizzu, we don't use pandas at all. It's only for an interface to easily input a lot of different data formats that pandas is already using with its data frame. Honestly, we are actually working on something that actually takes some heavy lifting off of pandas, because unlike any other charting tool that you use where you just throw the data on the tool that you actually want to plot, with Vizzu you actually add a huge amount of data and then you move within the data and generate views of that data set, maybe just a tiny part, and you zoom out and whatnot. And right now we only have aggregation. So we aggregate the values being shown, which is good in some cases, whereas in other cases you would want to show averages. And now you have to add extra columns to show averages in Vizzu that are calculated. Obviously, you can use pandas for that. That might be the easiest way forward, but it's a little, tedious and you have to have some extra work. But we will add it within the engine, so you can just either choose average or sum, so like aggregation, show the minimum, the maximum, things like that.
Does it also support Spark data frames, or do you have in timeline too? Because obviously some corporations or some companies have like bigger data, which are like in the One
Yeah,
more.
I heard this is, I'm not entirely sure about this. I know this is not the first time this question arises, and everybody's coming with the size of the data frame. I mean, honestly, our tool works really nice with like a couple of tens of thousands of
Yeah.
rows and column and like elements,
Yeah.
and you don't necessarily want to show more on a chart. Because otherwise it's get too crowded and you won't be able to. So I would advise against throwing data frames with millions of rows. I mean, I'm happy if you tried and let me know how it went, but my guess is it will be super slow for now. Because it's written in C++, it's quite robust. So even we're in an early stage with development, we don't have any too much issues with speed. I'm not sure. You have to check the site or ask about it, and my colleagues and my co-founders will be happy to help you out regarding the Spark data frame.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. This was my two small technical questions, I'd say.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
No problem.
Anybody else having any questions?
So far, I can't see anyone in the chat. Maybe they can also raise their hand. I can. But how else can people reach you if they have questions through Twitter or I don't know, like?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find
Slack community. You said, yeah.
Yeah. So Twitter this is my call sign there. But I think the easiest is really like again. Let me just copy and paste this once again. So feel free to drop me a line. No, this is definitely not the link that I wanted to copy. Sorry about that. So yeah. So this is the only link that I won't know by heart. So feel free. I don't know. Feel free to drop me a line at peter@vizzuhq.com anytime. Don't be shy about that. I will answer your email for sure.
Is it okay if we include the email address in the YouTube recording?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all right. Maybe don't add it in the description or just hash it a bit so not every bot starts sending me the very interesting offers.
Yeah.
That's good. And I think the most important channel for everyone is the Slack. And
just in case some people may have questions later.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just me there, but everybody else using already Vizzu and all my ipyvizzu and all my co-founders. And yeah, it looks like and this is the survey that I would love you to spend a couple of minutes with.
Sure. We take note of it, also putting the notes.
Thank you.
Thank you once again for your time and this great presentation. As Munich NLP and PyData Munich community, we wish you all the best in your open source journey. And
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thanks everybody for their time. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and wait for recording if you missed some parts, I would say. Thank you. We can
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Your interest in what we do. And good luck, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Have a nice rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye.